As a child, I was mesmerized by the concept of exploration. Who else thought it was cool? Who else thought it would have been cool to be an explorer as a child? Did anyone ever pretend they were on an adventure? Where would you guys go?
Mount Everest.
Nice.
Caves.
Caves.
The jungle.
The jungle. Me and my brother would often go off on adventures to super cool places when we were kids. At around the age of 5, I decided that when I grew up, I wanted to be an explorer. Lewis and Clark, Christopher Columbus, and Magellan were icons to me as a child. It was so cool as they discovered new parts of the world. Unfortunately, as I grew up, I discovered that much of this world has already been discovered. This fascination with discovery is a uniquely human experience. I think that God has given humans the desire to discover Him through the universe in amazing ways. In Psalm 19:1 in the ESV, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims His handiwork." I believe this universe has been given to us as a way to see God through His incredible creation. And a great way to do this is by discovering new parts of the universe. Although much of the world has been discovered, much of space has not been touched by human hands. I believe that developing a settlement on another planet, such as Mars, should be a priority for science, for inspiring the next generation, and for the furthering of our knowledge about the universe God has created. Is it possible for humans to live on Mars? Mars has a very rough climate. In an article called "What is the Weather Like on Mars?" written by masterclass.com in September of last year, it says the day-to-day temperature on Mars varies from -195 Fahrenheit at the planet's poles during the winter to a quite comfortable equatorial temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit at midday. These temperatures, along with the lack of oxygen would make it impossible to live on the surface of Mars without some sort of habitat. However, according to Lauren Grush in a Verge article called "Mars-like Soil Can Be Pressed into Strong Bricks" from April 2017, she talks about the ability to create bricks from Martian soil. She says real Martian soil can easily be used as a tool for building structures like habitats on the red planet's surface, which could make human missions to Mars less complicated to pull off. This would allow for the habitats to be built on Mars and not require the entire habitats to be shipped from Earth. Instead, small machines that could press and lay these bricks could be sent to Mars before humans ever got there and create entire structures that humans could live inside once they reached the planet. The issue of oxygen could easily be solved too by using electrolysis. Electrolysis is explained in an article called "How to Make Breathable Air and Fuel" by David Rothery in The Conversation from October of last year. The process, which has already been tested, demonstrates that oxygen can be made from carbon dioxide in Mars's atmosphere by using electricity to split it into a mixture of oxygen and carbon monoxide. And this experiment was actually tested within the last few years on one of the rovers that NASA sent up to Mars, and they were able to create oxygen by using that method. So once we get to Mars, is it possible to create livable habitats with oxygen and shelter from the weather? But how are we going to get there? Although we have never sent a human to Mars before, there have been many unmanned missions to the Martian surface, such as rovers and other scientific vehicles sent from both NASA and many other government organizations. The most likely candidate for the job would be SpaceX and the SpaceX Starship. This massive super heavy lift rocket is taller than a football field and has the capability to ship over 100 tons to Mars per mission. As you can see here, it's a massive structure larger than the Statue of Liberty. The trip would take about 9 months, according to Nola Tillman in an article from space.com called "How Long Would It Take to Get to Mars?" from January of this year. This 9-month timeline could be shortened using new technologies such as a slingshot around the Earth to increase speed and orbital refueling, where 2 of these massive starships would dock in orbit around Earth, and one of them would be refueled before it headed to the red planet. So what would it be like to live on a spaceship for 9 months? This is an idea for what the interior of the starship could look like. This spaceship is still under development, and so no final images have been released. But as you can see here, there are crew corridors, places for people to sleep. There's entertainment areas, as well as central areas for mission control. It would all be a zero gravity environment, which would probably be fun for the first couple months, but you might get sick of it after a little while. So there are also areas for exercising and making sure you can keep up your muscle mass. Once you got to Mars though, you wouldn't actually need as much muscles because there's far less gravity. So you'd be able to really step up your max weightlifting. So why should we go? If you talk to most Americans who were alive 50 years ago, when the first man walked on the moon, it's a pretty common occurrence to find that they remember watching it live on TV. It brought the nation together with one objective. At a time when our America is so divided, we need a national objective to bring us together behind a common goal. It will also open the door to many new scientific opportunities. Experiments that can only be explored by hands-on scientists on the surface. How can you help? On MarsSociety.org, on their About Us page, it states that the Mars Society is the world's largest and most influential space advocacy organization dedicated to the human exploration and settlement of the planet Mars. Through this website, you can find ways to support their efforts through project donations and to help send missions to Mars and beyond. They have been involved in many projects and have helped to fund missions to the surface of Mars and beyond. Now that we know it's possible to get to Mars and it's possible to live on Mars, should we go? I believe we should because of the impact this could have on uniting our nation, scientific progress, and developing more understanding of the world God has created for us. Since the beginning of time, people have had the innate desire to go out and explore God's creativity. From the founding of modern America to the first man stepping on the moon, we have strived to reach new heights and accomplish the impossible. Because of this, I believe we should take the initiative and send the first person to Mars and create a sustainable colony on the planet. Because when the first person touches down on Martian soil and makes humanity a multi-planetary species, it may only be one small step for man, but it will be a huge step for all of mankind. Does everybody have questions?
Hey, Ken.
Yes.
So you said like SpaceX is
Yeah.
farthest in this development. So what does that mean for like government, commercial connections?
Yeah.
Like, is Elon Musk going to be a company right now?
Yeah, so a lot of governments are like very concerned about that because they've been beat out a lot by like these commercial companies like SpaceX. But SpaceX actually gets most of its funding through NASA. So NASA over the last few years has transferred from building their own rockets, which they are still doing some of that, but have transitioned most of their like cash flow and their money into supporting these rocket companies and basically having competitions where they will grant different companies certain amounts of money to work on projects for them. So the project like to Mars would actually be funded through NASA. Yeah.
What can we do as like laymen to make
Yeah.
this happen?
Yeah, so like one of the things I talked about was the Mars Society. You can like go on there and like look at stuff that you could do. The other thing is literally just like talking to representatives, like talking to your representatives and like making it clear that these are like things that like we want to happen, because they're the ones who pass the bills that give NASA the funding that allows them to fund projects like this. Yeah.
Would this be an international colony on Mars, or would it be strictly like U.S.?
So the hope would be that it's an international colony. There's different objectives for it. Obviously, the government organizations kind of want it to be run by their countries. But some of the biggest advocates for this, like Elon Musk, who runs SpaceX, wants them to be fully self-governed. And he's also hoping to have 1 million people on Mars by 2050. He's been quoted to say, "I want to die on Mars, just not on impact," which I think is pretty interesting. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.